In this video, we will show you how to replace your power window motor regulator assembly on this Nissan Versa. This will be located directly behind your front door panel. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. The first thing we're going to do is remove this trim panel with the master window switch. To do that, we'll use a small plastic trim tool, make our way in between the door panel and this trim piece, and gently lift it up and out of place. Once you have that removed, continue on to the wiring harnesses along the back side. For this larger one, you'll find that you have a locking tab directly in the center. Squeeze that in, remove the wiring harness, and give it a quick inspection for corrosion. You can use a small screwdriver or just continue with your trim tool. That one looks fine. We'll continue on to the smaller wiring harness. Once again, there's a small locking tab in the center here. We'll press it in and remove this. Inspect the switch as well, and we can set this aside. With that out of the way, we can gain access to our two 10mm headed bolts in this area. Remove the pair. Inspect the mounting hardware as you continue, replace it as necessary. Now let's continue with our trim tool up along this area. This is just a small trim panel. You can gently pry this out of place. We are going to be reusing it, so don't break it. A quick inspection, and we can set this aside. Continue with your trim tool. We're going to make our way in between the door panel and the door itself. Slide this in here. Just gently start pulling this out of place. There we are. Now, once you have the bottom separated, we're going to lift this up and out of here. Remove the door panel. Now with the door panel out of the way, we can remove the vapor barrier. We'll take hold of this and gently pull it away from the door. We don't need to go too much further than this. We'll just hang this aside. Before we start removing anything else, it's important to make sure that the window is in the proper area. What I mean by that is because we're going to need to gain access to two mounting bolts that hold the window to the regulator. The main area that you want to pay attention to would be this oval right along here. We're going to bring the window down until we can gain access to the two mounting bolts. To do that, reconnect the window switch. Put this in. Put the key in the on position and put the window down until you can gain access to both of those mounting bolts. I have the key in the on position. We'll start putting the window down, being extremely careful not to have our hands inside this area. There we are. At this point, I can gain access to both of those two 10mm headed bolts. I'm going to remove the key and then remove the window switch. Use our 10mm to remove the mounting bolts. There's that one. At this point, we want to be extremely careful not to shake the door around. There's nothing holding this window in up against the regulator. Let's continue on to carefully lifting the window up to the fully upright position, and then we'll tape it in place. At this point, it's a good idea to use several pieces of tape. Tape is, of course, a lot cheaper than glass. With the window secured, we can continue on to disconnecting the window motor. We'll do that by this area right here. Gently press in on the locking tab, and we can separate the wiring harness. Now we can remove the wiring harness from the door. Use a trim tool for this. you'll find that you have several 10mm headed bolts. 2 along the bottom right here, 2 located directly above it, and then you'll have 3 that hold the motor assembly to the door as well. We'll leave this one in, but loose, because this can slide towards that opening. Now we'll make our way to the other 3 down along over here. Once again, we have a slotted area. At this point, we need to be extremely careful. We're going to be reaching inside the door. The reason why I say that is because there's nothing holding up that window aside from some tape, so if it starts coming down, make sure you get out of the way. With that said, we'll reach in here, we're going to grab onto the window regulator and carefully pull this towards the side so we can remove it. There we are. Now that that's dislodged from the door, we're going to carefully reach inside a little further, take hold of this, and pull that out as well. Tuck the wiring inside the door, and now we can remove the entire assembly. There it is, friends. All right, let's prepare to install our brand new window regulator. On the original window regulator, you remember that we had 2 mounting bolts that we left in place. One right along here next to the motor. We'll pull this out of here and start it into the brand new regulator. We don't want to tighten it up, obviously, because that's going to go into the door. We'll remove that final bolt up along this top corner here and swap it over as well. Let's get this in the door. Now we can start putting this in place, starting with the motor area. While we bring it up here, we also want to make sure that we bring the wiring through this hole before we put the motor area into the proper placement. You can put your hand up through here if needed. Be extremely careful that the glass does not come down. There's our wiring harness. The next thing we'll do is find our mounting bolt here. We have 2 alignment tabs that will need to align with their ports, so we'll get those aligned as well. Once you can see that your mounting bolt is in the proper position and both of those alignment tabs are in their slots, we'll continue on to the other 2 mounting bolts. After those are in, you can snug all 3 of these bolts. Let's continue on to the rest of the regulator. We're going to take hold of that and carefully bring it up into place, making sure that we put that corner bolt in and through and then slide it this way. Once we've done that, we'll start in all the rest of the mounting bolts, and then of course we'll snug those up as well. We'll hold that regulator in place. Once you're sure everything's secure, go ahead and remove your tape from the window. Slowly lower the window down until it matches up with your window regulator. Don't let it drop. You may have to flex that window regulator just enough to make it so the window fits behind it. Continue on with your two 10mm headed bolts. Start them in, snug them up. Confirm that both of those bolts are nice and tight. You don't want this loosening up on you while you're driving down the road. Now it's time for the wiring harness. Let's put the two pieces together. Listen for a click, give them a tug. Resecure the wiring harness to the door. We'll press this right in. Before we continue putting anything together, let's check the functionality. Install the window switch, put the key in the on position, and then test the window functionality by bringing it up and down. Perfect. Let's remove the key and then remove the window switch. Now we can reinstall our vapor barrier. When we're doing so, we want to make sure that we bring it behind the inside door handle. Slide it right in there. Now we'll bring this over, take hold of that wiring through the slot that's in the vapor barrier. Now we can put the vapor barrier into its original position. If for some reason the butyl tape doesn't stick, you can use other tape, just as long as it's on there. Now we can get ready to install the door panel. Before you do so, we need to pay attention to all of the mounting holes that make their way around the door. You might find that you still have some of your push clips that should be attached to the door panel in the door itself. If that's the case, continue on with a trim tool and pop those out of place. That's what it looks like right there. We'll just double check all the way around the door. Now let's have a look at the inside of the door panel. We want to ensure that all of the push clips are in place. If any of them are missing, you want to make sure that you replace them as necessary. Just make our way all the way around. This looks good. Let's take the door panel and put it in place on the door. When you do so, you need to come up nice and high so the door panel can make its way over this ridge. Once it's up there, go ahead and slide it down and then press it in so all those push clips make their way into their corresponding hole. Double check along each side. Let's just confirm that it's completely met up against the door. We'll take hold of that wiring harness, bring up through this forward area here. We can rest that aside. We'll continue on with our two 10mm headed mounting bolts, one here and one right there. Let's install the window switch. Take this and put it in position. We'll press it down, confirm it's secured. Let's get this last trim piece on here. Just put it in the proper position and press it in. Should hear a few clicks from that. Give it a wiggle to make sure it's completely secured all the way around. All right, friend, now that we have the door panel back together, it's always a good idea to make sure that you put the key in the on position and test the functionality one last time. Aside from that, thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.